This is the Milo Beasley Show. This is the Milo Beasley Show. There's only one thing you need to know. This is the Milo Beasley Show. And now, here's your host, Milo Beasley.
And welcome to, it's kind of a brand new episode of the Milo Beasley Show. It's actually a continuation, part two, if you will, of one of my favorite guests already. And we're just halfway through this interview. So please help me welcome back at this time, the boy wonder himself, Burt Ward. I definitely want to talk to you about this. Again, I have a dog and a cat, and you have your nonprofit company, Gentle
Right.
Giants.
Right.
It started off as an adoption shelter and now is a pet food and product company?
Well, we actually have two companies. One
okay.
is our rescue, Gentle Giants Rescue and Adoptions, Inc., which is it's what they call a 501c3.
Right.
It's like any charity. I mean, it's the same status as Muscular Dystrophy or United Way. I mean, we could accept donations. We don't really take them, but we could accept tax deductible donations.
Right.
And my wife and I in 1994 began rescuing dogs. And we moved here when our daughter was born. We were living at the beach on a 4-story beautiful home with all these balconies, and you can't have a little child in a year or two running around on these balconies, 50
Right.
feet in the air. Oh my gosh. So, and we thought, it's even though you're at the beach, which is wonderful, when you're close to the beach in California, in the Los Angeles area, I mean, the property is just so valuable. You have like 5 feet on the front or 10 feet
Right.
in the front, 5 feet around the house. So we decided to move out and raise our daughter where we could have more property. And we found the city that we live in. It's called Norco, meaning North Corona, where
Okay.
it's a right of way for, the horses and animals. It's like an animal special thing. They have special permits where you can have all these horses and other animals. I mean, you see unique animals here. You see camels, you see llamas, you see cows and pigs and sheep and goats and
Right.
chickens and yet in beautiful homes. But it is they like to call it's a rural atmosphere. City life in a rural atmosphere. So we moved here and we rescued a Great Dane, and then we heard about these others needing rescue, and we said, well, and we took a second one, and then the other ones that we heard about were all in people's homes where they weren't in a shelter where they were in
Right.
immediate danger, and we figured that people would find a home for them. And turned out, like a month later, we found out everyone we didn't take was given to a shelter and put to death. We said, wait a minute, these big, lovable, people think a Great Dane it's a giant dog, but there's something that most people don't know. The bigger they are, the more gentle they are. I could take my biggest ones and with like my pinky fingers and just by the collar and lead them around and just go, they'll do anything. They're very human-like. Smaller breeds of dogs, they'll come up to you and pet you. They want to be petted and stuff,
Right.
but then they want to run off and run and go play and do all this stuff. The Great Dane will just stand there with you. It's like he's just standing here. Yeah, he's so human-like,
Right.
So anyway, we said we can't let these dogs die, and so I said to my wife Tracy, this is the first week of August, 1994. We can't let these dogs die. How about just for a week or two? Till I find somebody else to let me rescue these dogs because I don't want them to die. She says, well, I don't want them to die either. Well, that 2 week has turned into 27 years, and we still haven't found anybody to take over the rescue or rescue us, right?
Right.
And so we saved 15,500 dogs, every single one of which has lived in our house with us.
Hold on,
They're
did you
not
say
outside.
15,000?
527 years. We always have a minimum of 50 in our house, a minimum of 50. We've had a lot more. That when we first started in August 1994, by the end of August, I had 106 full-size Great Danes in my house. 106. These are giant dogs.
How did you have room for you?
Well, it's crowded, but let me tell you. And then we had 62 puppies under 7 weeks of age. We never bred anything, but there were people or shelters that would call us and say, we just took over a litter of Great Dane puppies. There's 9 in this litter, and here in the shelter there's potential for disease, and we want to get them out, get them into a home. And okay. My wife Tracy was sleeping on the floor. I mean, because you would take care of one litter, and then the mother would get up, and you have to incubate the babies. Here come the next litter. And by the time we got finished with the 7th litter, it's time to start the first litter. So she slept for 3 months on our kitchen floor. And anyway, in the course of saving all these animals' lives, and that's what we were doing. And so many times people say, well, how is it that, you're an actor and, on Batman, and now you're saving dogs? What's the connection? I said, well, I like to say that I was the caped crusader, and now I'm the canine crusader. And they go, oh, that's pretty cool. And, but what happened was, because these giants traditionally have very short lifespans, Great Danes, they traditionally only live 7 to 9 years. And other dogs, Mastiffs, Irish Wolfhounds, they live 6 to 8 years. And we adopted almost every single one. And the ones we didn't adopt, we kept ourselves. But when we would lose one, it tear us apart. Oh,
I can imagine.
And so so what did we do? We said, we got to find a way to help them live longer. The first thing we did is we created a feeding and care program. We care for dogs and cats different than everybody else. Nobody that I know of does what we do. Now, tons of people are starting to do what we do because we put it together on our website, gentlegiantsdogfood.com. There's one of the menu items, special feeding and care program. It details, we feed dogs a minimum of 5 or more times a day. They have to be elevated, the food. And the people say, oh, well, I bought this little elevated thing. No, that's not right. There's a specific height for every dog. People say, geez, I never knew that. All of this stuff. And why did we have all of this? Because we found that it added 3 to 5 years to a dog's life. And then finally, we got to a point where we said, we pretty well perfected this feeding and care program. The only other thing I know we could do is maybe make the food. And because we could afford it, what if we make the finest food in the world? I mean, the best of the best. Maybe we can pull out another year. And let me tell you, when we went to make the food and we hired 4 nutritionists from across the country, paid to have this food made, we found out something that so disturbed us, we never got over it until this day. And here's what we found out. That every company that makes pet food knows something the average person doesn't know, which is the more fat content you put in the food, the hungrier it makes the animal. Dog food, cat food. Dog food and cat food has an excess amount of fat in it. And that's not for any benefit for the animal, just the opposite. Makes them hungrier. And you say, well, why would they want to make them hungrier? Well, the more food they eat, more the pet parent has to buy. And that really ticked us off big time. So we went ahead and made the finest food in the world. And one of the things we noticed, our dogs were so much healthier. Coats that were much more beautiful, alertness, feeling better, okay? And our dogs are living to 27 and a half years. Now, not every dog, but almost every dog is doubling their normal lifespan. Almost every single one. They'd have to either get cancer or get hit by a car or something like that. Other than that, they're living twice their normal lifespan. And you say, well, how can just the food do that? Well, let's think about it. And I tell people, if you have a dog and a cat, when we finish today, go pick up some of that dog food in your fingers. Rub those kibbles in your fingers and put the kibbles down, rub your fingers together. See if you don't feel that slightly greasy feeling. It's there because it's animal fat that's been sprayed onto the outside of the food as well as added to the inside of the food. Okay, and high concentration. I mean, dog food has anywhere from 12 to 22% crude fat.
Wow.
Not healthy fat, not like avocado fat. We're talking saturated fat, 12 to 22% pure fat. And I would tell people, that's killing your dog. And they said, well, how can you say that? It's killing my dog. I said, well, let me just ask you a question. Would you ever take a can of bacon grease or chicken fat or turkey fat and pour it down your garbage disposal at home? Oh, of course not. Well, what would happen if you did? Oh, well, it would clog it up. And if I let it sit there, I mean, it would harden and I'd end up buying a garbage disposal or we have to replace the pipes in my sink. And I said, that's exactly right. So tell me, what do you think is happening to the arteries and intestines of those dogs you love when every single day, every single meal, every single bite, every single kibble is encapsulated in animal fat? And I go, oh my gosh. They say, but my dog's been eating this food for years. He's 12 years old. How can it change now? How can your food help it? And I said, here's an amazing thing that happens with animals. A dog's body will reject that fat that has accumulated in their body over the years. It will actually get rid of it through the stool, but it takes about a month to do it. And I said, the difference between our food and everybody else's food is that we don't put that fat back in. Our food is with the fat that's in there, okay? It is without adding extra protein or excessive protein. That's another problem, causes pain in dogs. So in other words, we were just not prematurely killing dogs.
Right.
So and I tell people, I didn't discover the fountain of youth. Believe me, if I did, I'd be drinking from it. But what I did find is that we're not doing any harm. The first thing of anything you ever do is do no harm.
Right.
And our food, because it is pure nutrition, I mean, the dog's body, it just goes right through their body and it's distributed beautifully, gives them energy, gives them alertness, doesn't make them hungry. They're comfortable. They're not hungry, anxious for food.
Right.
Then something else we did. We have on our website, we use non-GMO ingredients. Now, GMOs are genetically modified organisms that are used in food to prevent pesticides from killing the plant. Let's take rice for an example.
Right.
You may or may not know this, that 98% of the rice that you can buy in the United States has been genetically modified. GMO.
I did not.
There's only 2% that isn't GMO. We buy from that 2% for our dog food and our cat food. We won't use the GMOs. And I'll tell you why. Because here's you have to understand, when a plant grows and it attracts bugs, they'll come on it, and you spray it with a pesticide. It used to just kill the plant. But by genetically modifying the plant, when you spray it with the pesticide, it doesn't kill the plant and the rice grows. But guess what? It's absorbing the pesticide. It's absorbing it. Dogs' bodies, cats' bodies, they're not designed as well as humans. They're much more able to be damaged by pesticides. Okay, they're just not built like a human. That's why they don't live as long.
Right.
So on our website, we have, and all of our stuff is non-GMO, which costs us like twice as much to make the food. And my wife and I take no salary. We don't take any salary from this. We put it out there to be as affordable for people as possible. Just think of all the people who love their dog or their cat,
right,
and they don't have a lot of money. Maybe it's an elderly person, if it's a woman, maybe her husband died or the kids moved on, and all she's got in that world is that dog or cat. And we want to make it affordable. So, but coming back to the GMOs, I have to tell you something, it's really powerful. We did a lot of research and we found a website that specializes in researching all these chemicals that are causing cancer in people and stuff like that. And we found a video that they had put together by veterinarians now, prominent veterinarians from all across the US, some from the UK. And in this 8 or 9 minute video, which we have on our website, on our non-GMO section of our website, that all these vets are saying the same thing, which is 10, 15, 20 years ago, they would see one patient a month with cancer. That's all, one a month. Now, every single day, 1 out of every 2 patients has cancer.
Oh, wow.
Which is the #1 killer of dogs. So the long and short of it is our food is non-GMO. Our dogs are living up to 27 years. And I want to tell you something about, we came out recently with cat food. Now, we're real experts with dogs. Anybody that has lived, personally had 15,500 dogs, in their home over the course of 27 years, never less than 50 at one time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 27 years, believe me, you'll learn a lot.
I would think so.
With cats, we've only rescued about between 300 to 500 cats, I would estimate, over the 27 years. But an average person hasn't had 300 to 500 cats, right?
Right. No.
Well, a year and a half ago, 2 of our cats died. One of them was 31 years old. The other was 32 years old. And guess what they were eating? Our dog food. Now, cats need a little more protein. They need some other things. So we knew that because we have the access to the best nutritionists. So we had regular cat food, store cat food. They hardly ever ate that. They would eat our dog food. Okay. So we decided, well, look, we've got these cats living astronomically long lives. Why don't we, using the same wonderful ingredients, but structure it with the extra supplements and nutrition for cats and come out with a cat food, which is what we've done. And we started right off the bat with testing. We always test 6 months, okay, or longer before we put something out.
Okay.
Because we have all these animals. I mean, we got the greatest testing in the world. You hear about these laboratories where they have these poor dogs in cages, 8 or 10 dogs. And you know, if they're in a cage, the poor animal's frightened. I mean, that's a horrible way to try to find out what's good or what's not.
Right. Absolutely.
We have 45 different breeds, more than 50 dogs living in our home in a nurturing environment. It's the ideal place to test anything.
Yep. I would agree.
And all of our dogs and cats have done well in this stuff. So we put out our cat food, but the first person besides us to test it were veterinarians. And this one vet has his own cat that he's like operated on something like 8 times for all these problems. And he has access to every prescription food, you know, because he's a vet and all the prescription food places go to every vet. Okay. He only feeds his cat our cat food because it works and it works great. And now our cat food is like, oh, I mean, just unbelievable. And people are getting it. And we have canned food as well as dry. And our canned food is with all fresh ingredients. Gentle Giant's canned food, fresh ingredients. And when they say fresh, well, how fresh could it be? You mean frozen? Oh, no, no, no. Our canning plant is right by the ocean. And when the ships come in the morning from having fished all night long, we get the tuna and the salmon fresh. I mean, literally caught within 12 hours.
Wow.
Now, we also have fresh beef and fresh chicken. Everything in that can, the fruits, the vegetables, everything is fresh. And does it make a big difference? Gigantic difference. Absolutely gigantic. And people call us all the time, especially with the dogs, because we tell them now, our food is so dramatically different than these food that you're buying with all that fat in it, right? I mean, and by the way, our canned food is 90% of the protein, 90% chicken, 90% beef, 90% turkey, 90% and cats is 90% salmon and 70% tuna. Anyway, the other 10% are fruits and vegetables. Well, you don't find that in other canned foods. They don't have 90% of the meat. It's way too expensive. Everything is, so we have people transition over a 1 week period, meaning that let's say you were going to feed our dog food. We would have you mix what you're feeding with our food over a 1 week period in the following proportion. Day 1, 80% of what you've been feeding, only 20% Gentle Giants, because our density of our food, it doesn't have all that fat. You know, it's like a person that is eating meat and potatoes their whole life, never had a salad, never had fruit. And now for the first time in their life, they're having less dense food that go through their body faster. So 10% a day, 80-20 day 1, 70-30 day 2, 60-40, 50-50 for a week. And when they switch over, I mean, most people will call us or write to us. Almost everyone that contacts us will tell us in 4 to 5 weeks, they think they have a different dog. I mean, it's not like a minor thing. We're talking about a gigantic change. Dogs and dogs that they say, oh, my dog was always so hungry, you know, he'll eat anything and this and that. And I said, well, how many times a day you're feeding him? Oh, twice. Well, that's no good. Got to feed him smaller, more frequent meals. Well, what's that got to do with it? Okay. Well, let me put it in human terms. If you went to your medical doctor for an annual checkup and you ask your doctor the following question, doctor, am I better off eating 1 or 2 big meals a day or 4 or 5 smaller meals a day, what do you think your doctor would say? Well, of course, he'd say 4 or 5 smaller. Well, why don't you apply that to an animal that isn't designed as well as you? Oh, gee, I never thought of that. I mean, it's that kind of, people don't think, they don't understand that a lot of things that we do as humans that benefit us can benefit an animal that doesn't have, all the positive things, and protections that we have.
Right. They can't fend for themselves. So
that's right. And so now our food is available in Walmarts and Targets all across America, online, everybody online, walmart.com, target.com, chewy.com, petco.com, petsmart.com, tractorsupply.com, and our own website, gentlegiantsdogfood.com and gentlegiantscatfood.com. So we've made it available. We don't take any salary, and it's our life's work. But what we're doing with this is a stepping stone to then doing things that we want to help the world of humans as well. Because the only complaint I've ever gotten, okay, is where people say, you and your wife, you're just so nuts over animals. Why don't you do something for people? I said, wait a minute. If I help you keep your dog an extra 5 or 10 years longer, don't you think I've done something for you?
That's helping me.
Well,
absolutely.
I never thought of it that way, right? They don't think of it that. They say, why aren't you doing more human research and all of this kind of stuff?
Right.
Well, we are doing everything we can. It is our life's work. We take no salary from this. And we are now just formed a company called Superheroes to the Rescue. And our Superheroes to the Rescue celebrates people that do kind things for others and go out of their way to do good things. And we're creating programming that will entertain kids of all ages, children, adults, teenagers, okay, that's positive, that tries to make life better for all of us. And that's what we're doing. We're very excited about that, and we're going to have our own on our property, our own sound stage, and I mean we're really going all out for this, and I just think that we're going to be able to produce some wonderful things to make a better world, and that's what our goal is.
That's fantastic. What was that website again for folks watching?
Well, we have Gentle Giants,
right.
And that's Giants is plural. GentleGiantsDogFood.com and GentleGiantsCatFood.com. And then we have our store that has all these wonderful things on there. We have, and everything we do, we have like 100% customer satisfaction. If somebody called up and said, well, I think your food is fantastic, but my dog didn't like it, and that hasn't happened yet. But if it did,
right,
we'd give them their money back. Because this is not about money at all, because we're not taking salary from this.
Right.
This is about actually trying to help animals live longer and healthier. And when you do that, what do you do for their pet parent? You give them happiness. And that's what we're trying to make a better world for all of us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be able to hear you talk about that. And I'm excited to dive into Gentle Giants for my dog and my cat. I swear I'm not just saying this because you're here, you're my guest on the show, but I promise you I will be switching over. So I'm excited to see the progress on that.
Well, here's what I want you to watch for. Once you've actually transitioned, but during that transition period, you've got all that fat still from the other foods, whether it's dog food or cat food, doesn't matter.
Right.
But after they're 100% on Gentle Giants, kind of make a little note as what day that is and say, okay, 4 to 5 weeks later, and actually try to watch like at least once a week and try to watch your dog and see what happens and see if you don't see this change coming. And so many people say, well, I can't believe it. After 3 days, I saw a change. Well, I said, well, that would be pretty quick. But some people do. They actually see because they've been feeding a really cheap food that's full of fat and their dog is not doing well. And I can't tell you how many people say things like, oh, for last 3 years, my dog that used to jump up in my bed, my little dog, he can't jump up for the last 3 years. Now he's jumping up on my bed again. Thank you for giving me my puppy back. And people are blown away by the dramatic change. Because if you think about it, when all of that grease and all of that stuff comes out of their body, and now you just put in pure nutrition, you are nurturing their cells. You're giving them the best possibility for a long life.
That's great. Before we wrap up, I do want to get to what I call the Milo Beasley Show frequently asked questions. These are 5 questions that I ask all my guests. So every single guest on my show answers these 5 questions.
So they answer them all the same way.
No, they don't. And
sure
that's
they don't.
the best. That's the best part. All
Okay.
right. So question number 1. This is my favorite of all the questions, though.
All right.
Question number 1. Who was your first celebrity crush?
Well, I would have to say for celebrity crush would be Victor Buono, who played King Tut when he jumped on me and nearly crushed me. Oh, you mean crush as though you like them? Oh, I didn't. I thought you meant Batman and Robin.
Right.
Very literal people.
Very literal.
Superheroes are very precise. You have to be very precise to be a crime fighter.
I would think so. I couldn't get into it. I could. Question number 2. I have these like pop up on screen, so I'm trying to remember what they are. Oh yeah. Question number 2. What is your guilty pleasure song? What is a song that you like that you don't care if anybody else around you likes, that you were playing at the top volume?
Well, I don't have as much time to play those songs now, but I was not into like heavy with music and stuff, to be honest with you. But I always liked movie themes, I mean, I thought they were, and like there's a song called The Shadow of Your Smile.
Okay.
Okay, from the famous movie with Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. And I mean, there's some I love these amazing, movie themes. Rocky, we'll look at the theme from Rocky. And, there's other movies and stuff that through the years I've just, they're relaxing to me because, with my wife, Tracy, and I, which by the way, if you ever get a chance to talk to her, I always tell people, I'm so glad you spoke to me first, because if you spoke to my wife, Tracy, first, you would think I was a mute and couldn't talk. She can out-talk me 10-1, 10-1, hands down. More energy than Robin ever had. I can't keep up with her. I mean, she only sleeps 2 hours a night. She never stops. This, that. And it's like, okay, honey, all right, dear. I mean, and we've been married now almost 32 years. And I've just never seen anybody. I mean, she, and she has a Robin costume, by the way.
Oh, she has a Robin costume.
Yeah, and she actually looks better in that Robin costume than I ever did. Okay, she calls herself Robin's girl. Okay, and but so we really have a wonderful life here, and we really we want to do everything we can to make a better world. So anyway, I hope that answers your question.
No, it absolutely did. Absolutely did. Question number 3. You can answer this one as Burt or as Robin. If you had to, you were being attacked, would you rather fight a giant horse-sized duck, so a giant duck, or 100 duck-sized horses?
Well, I guess I would fight that one large duck. Okay. And the reason being is when you got all these little things, okay, you could be attacked like by locusts or killer bees. In one of the shows, I was attacked by a killer bee, and thank God I was down to my last African death bee antidote pill. But it's very interesting though that I think that would be, that would be my answer. And I want to tell you one funny thing on Batman. It brings it up. There was a scene, because we always had so much fun on Batman, where all of a sudden the Joker's henchmen showed up in this warehouse, and I turned to Batman. I said, "Batman, there's 8 of them against 2 of us. Odds in our favor, right? Because there's only 8 of them, right?
Only 8.
Not like 50. I mean, against 2, 8 against 2. But no, that would be my answer."
I think that's what most people, I mean, obviously this is a 50-50 question. So, but I think most people tend to lean towards just get the one big thing out of the way.
At least you're dealing with one problem.
Right.
Not
Question number 4.
Yeah.
What is your favorite movie quote?
Oh. Geez. Favorite movie quote. Well, there was that famous Clint Eastwood film, Make My Day. Remember? I mean,
Yep.
okay, when he was played the police officer. But
Yep.
we actually, there's a lot of times, and I don't know why it happens, but I could be talking with people, and we get excited talking about this or that, and I'll say something from our show. Not intentionally. It just comes out because you do it every single day. Your life is this every single day for all these years. But I would say that would be one of the quotes that I remember.
That's a good one. And then our last question is a fill in the blank. If blank was an Olympic sport, I would be a gold medalist.
Blank was an Olympic sport. I would say oh geez, that would be really hard because there's so many things I like to do. I mean, I really like to do things that are, I mean, I was voted like the best athlete even in my elementary school. I was doing everything. In high school, I was on almost every athletic team: wrestling, tennis, golf, track. Played first board of chess in our Beverly Hills High School. I mean, I don't know that I could find one thing that I would, but I was also clocked as the world's fastest reader. I read 30,000 words a minute with 90% comprehension. So I don't know what I think whatever I would put my heart into, I would do a good job with. And I don't want to limit it to one thing because what I might say now in 5 minutes from now, it might be something different.
And that is a great answer, actually. Like that, doing whatever, you set your sights on Gentle Giant, and it went from, like you said, just adopting one dog to bringing in a couple just so that they had a longer life.
Right.
And now,
15,500.
15,500.
Yeah. We feed, just to give you an idea, every single day we feed 600 pounds of Gentle Giant's dog food here every day. 600 pounds. So you see those big bags of dog food? We feed 20 a day. Just think what it takes to lift, carry, and pour 600 pounds of food every single day. Plus, I have horses, and I have. I mean, we cats. I mean, we love animals, and at some point in our lives, Tracy and I've actually rescued horses. We rescued pigs and sheep and goats, and I mean, if you rescue animals, if you save a life, you'll save just about any life.
I agree 100%, and that is a great quote. So again, thank you so much for chatting with me tonight. I absolutely appreciate it. And we're talking on, I think today is National Nonprofit Day. So a great day to talk to you.
There you go.
So again, everyone go check it out. Just Gentle Giants, just Google it. I think they're on the Twitter as well. GentleGiantsDogFood.com, GentleGiantsCatFood.com. Please go check it out. Do yourself a favor, do your pets a favor, and check it out. Again, thank you so much for chatting with me today. Those Robin stories, fantastic. Learned so much.
I'd like to end with a phrase that Adam and I would say in the show. To the Batmobile!
To the Batmobile. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next week.